What happens when you take traditional storytelling and architecture and fuse it with the latest digital technology? The results can be mind-blowing, immersing audiences like never before. The fusion of digital and our physical worlds have become increasingly important in delivering these one-of-kind experiences. This next powerhouse team, led by our mixologist Craig Feldman, will explore the major roles that technology and digital and development play in creating these immersive experiences all across the themed entertainment space, from theme parks to mobile apps to consumer products and marketing events. Advancements in technology have unleashed our ability to tell stories in completely different ways and at all new levels. Craig, Scott, Joseph, and Christy have been intentionally here to represent a very diverse section of the industry and are going to share some of their personal experiences with you and measure not only the successes but the opportunities in this ever-evolving quest to engage audiences with the latest in digital and practical storytelling. And it's my honor to introduce you to Craig Feldman.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Bettina. It's really an honor to be here. I'd like to thank Bettina, JP, and the entire Themed Entertainment Association for having us. We're really excited. My name's Craig Feldman, and I'm here to be your host for today's panel, Screens to Dreams, Unleashing Technology to Tell Incredible Stories. It's so exciting for us to be here at SeaWorld. I'm thrilled for the event this evening. If anyone needs to look for me or Scott or Joseph, we're going to be riding the Mako roller coaster over and over. Yes, exactly. So we are here today to take a look at the world of themed entertainment through the digital and technology lens. We've got a terrific lineup for you today, and I'm going to be inviting to the stage momentarily a few great colleagues of mine that we're going to tell some really exciting stories about where things have gone really right in the technology space and also opportunities where we've learned to grow. But before we get started, I would like to share with you some context about how I got here today. So I spent 15 years just down the road at Walt Disney World. I think a few of you may have heard of this place. And at Disney Parks, I had the opportunity to lead a number of business and technology projects that really kind of upped the ante on the vacation experience in Orlando, and also some major product launches at Disneyland in California, Disneyland Paris, as well as the opening of Hong Kong Disneyland. After that, I spent a couple of years as an executive producer for a television series that helps the Carnival Corporation really redefine its original content strategy, working with the 9 international cruise lines to help recommunicate the cruise industry to new consumers. And today, I have the pleasure of consulting with companies in the entertainment and technology space around the world about design, branding, experience development. So I'm really, really thrilled to be here today. So when it comes to themed entertainment, first I want to take a step back and talk about everyday life and technology. Where we've gone in the last few years, in the space of mobile development, everybody is looking to really change the way that we interact with consumers on a global scale. So if you think about what you do in your everyday life, you think about mobile banking, shopping online, even travel, everything has, as they say, gone digital. And the way that we interact with companies to even take care of the most mundane tasks has really changed. And we as consumers and as guests have really understood what it means to have control over our experiences. And so the expectations have changed, and the game has changed, as they often say. And that's just in everyday life. So when we think about when you go on vacation or when you go to an event or attend a show, really that's where the experience expectations have gone off the charts. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Because no longer is it acceptable just to tell a story or host a party or invite someone to a theme park. It really has to be an immersive experience that draws them into the story. So that's really where we're going to focus. We're going to focus on this notion of taking the digital world, fusing it with practical world into this notion of themed entertainment and the entertainment industry. So what we're going to do throughout the day today is we're going to take a look at this lens. We're going to take you through stories about theme parks, cruises, vacations, gaming and apps, original content, events, a very, very broad look at the industry because each one of these sectors has made so many advances in the technology space, especially over the last few years. And the panelists who are going to be joining me here on the stage momentarily have some amazing experience in this world. Because we're here in Orlando, Florida, of course, the theme park capital of the universe, we're going to pay homage to a city that's really made so many advancements in this area. And certainly each one of us, myself included, have taken a trip or two through these hallowed grounds. We're going to tell you some stories of projects that really exceeded their expectations, both from a business and a guest experience standpoint. And we're also going to share some stories of where things maybe didn't go as planned. Because I don't know about you, but I think I often learn the best from those opportunities when we've had to go back to the drawing board and maybe we've come out even further ahead than where we had originally planned. So that's kind of what our day is going to look like today, and at no time will we stoop to any cheap 3D tricks. Somebody got it, yeah. All right, so I'd like to now take the opportunity to introduce our panelists. Okay. Our first panelist joins us from glamorous Southern California. He's a digital media executive who's created products, content, and experiences for some of the world's most admired media companies. From websites and apps to short-form video and AR activations, his work blends creative storytelling with some of the latest technologies to bring to life incredible stories from some beloved characters and properties. He's brought many exciting products into the marketplace for Disney, Viacom Nickelodeon, Random House, and today he serves as Director of Worldwide Digital Marketing for Warner Brothers, where he's responsible for omni-channel digital marketing campaigns on behalf of DC Comics, Looney Tunes, and a few other Warner Brothers franchises that you may have heard about. So please welcome to the stage, Mr. Scott Gordon. Thank you. Welcome. Boom. Go web. There we go. There he is, Scott Gordon. Okay. Okay, next. Our next panelist comes from New York. He's a show director and executive producer who's contributed to the entertainment, luxury, fashion, and prestige beauty industries. He's no stranger to Orlando since he got his entertainment start just down the road at Walt Disney World and then later at Tokyo Disney Sea during its inaugural years. He grew up in the event production space, executing successful media and PR launches in New York, London, Shanghai, and many other entertainment meccas around the globe. And today he serves as the global director of events for Tom Ford Beauty, leading the creative development and strategy for brand events and immersive experiences worldwide. Please welcome Joseph Lucius. And of course, I've saved the best for last. She did not have to travel quite as far as our other panelists. She's setting trends in the digital space right here in Orlando, Florida. An executive product and marketing leader with a passion for connecting the digital and physical worlds of theme parks, entertainment, and cruise ships, our next panelist has led many large-scale product transformations for some of the largest players in the vacation space. Today, as Chief Marketing Officer for Hoilu, she and her team are laser-focused on connecting people and ideas everywhere, working with global brands to create seamless, simple, and hassle-free interactions for consumers and employees around the world. Please welcome my good friend, Christine McCorkle. Okay, so now we're going to get started. I can move over here. All right, well, thank you all so much for being here today. It's really an honor to have all of you here on the stage. Actually, this is the first time that all of us have been in the same room, unless you count last night's event. So it's cool to be here. All right, so what we're gonna do throughout our day today is we're gonna have some conversational discussion. You know, we've all been saturated with slides and meetings back in the office where we've read bullet points over and over. Instead, we're here to do what we all do best, and that's tell stories. And so each one of us has had the opportunity to work with some amazing projects over the years, and we thought that we'd share some of those great tales with all of you. So throughout the day today, I'm going to be asking a few questions that will inspire our panelists to share with you some ideas and some tales of their careers, and also some cautionary tales as we get later on into our panel. So before we get started, as an icebreaker and a way for you to get to know everyone, I thought I'd take an opportunity to say, tell us how you got here. And I don't mean that literally, but I'm curious to know, everyone finds their way into this particular industry, through some emotional connection with a childhood vacation or a memory that you had going to see a movie or visit a theme park. So I really want to know, what got you interested into this space? So we're going to start with Scott.
Sure. So, I think you're right, Craig, that emotional connection is where everything starts. And I had a particularly emotional experience, my first visit to Disney MGM Studios back in the day. That's me down there on the beat. Does anyone remember this?
Yes.
This was a big deal. And it's interesting because we think of technology and its role very much in that's what's happening now, but that's what was happening then. This was amazing technology on display, which goes to show you it's not about the tech, it's about that wonder. I was hooked for a lifetime, went on to work at Walt Disney World, even gave family magic tours at the Magic Kingdom, which was a great experience of building immersive experiences with no technology at all, just with storytelling and kids' imaginations. And I think that everyone who works in digital media has a secret talent. That's my point of view. Everyone's got one. Mine is composing music. And I wanted to highlight that because the greatest accomplishment I will ever have in my entire life was composing a parade theme song for Tokyo Disneyland. So that was it, I'm out. Everything after that is gravy. And now I work at Warner Brothers Consumer Products. That's the Oscar that I won. No, I'm kidding. That's on the Warner Brothers Consumer Products, the Warner Brothers Studio Tour. You can hold your own Oscar. Make reservations today.
That's right.
And I'm there representing the classic properties of Warner Brothers and really bringing together marketing, product, experience, and all in the service of building emotional connections with our fans.
Awesome. Welcome, Scott. All right, Joseph, take it away. How did you get here?
I was also a child of the theme parks. My grandparents lived in Vero, and so we spent our summers coming to Walt Disney World. This is actually me at my high school graduation gift, a family trip to Walt Disney World. And it was really out of that came my love for immersive and sensorial experiences. So when I had the opportunity to either go to college or go to Disney World and hope to get a job, I chose Disney World. And then I made my way as an entertainment performer to Tokyo, and with the nest egg.
Your hair is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's not mine, but
That's another panel coming up.
Thank you so much. I then moved to New York City, where I did a lot of scrappy production work, a lot of freelance gigs, and really found my way to event production, specifically fashion event production, which led me to beauty, and then ultimately to my role at Tom Ford Beauty now, where I create brand experiences worldwide that then get scaled and rolled out to local markets. Amazing. And I'm very happy to be back in Orlando.
We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, Christy.
All right, so there's a theme. I also came to Disney as a child. I grew up in Jacksonville, so not very far from here, and my family loved Disney, so we came here very often. And even when we weren't visiting, we came. I got my first haircut on Main Street too, at the barbershop. Even when we weren't visiting, I watched every Disney VHS tape that was ever made. And whenever we weren't watching VHS tapes, that shows how long ago it was the Disney Sunday night movie. And it was sort of hooked emotionally, sort of the same way. Whenever I had the opportunity to finally move to Orlando, it was amazing, and the only place that I wanted to work was Disney. So that's what I did. I got a job in technology. As a business analyst, working on some content. It was amazing. And then slowly started the world of mobile and digital delivery began to emerge. Here's me with Mickey in the office. And along the way, I've been able to deliver some really amazing experiences. And, the best part of it all is not only what you deliver to the guests, it's sort of the friendships and the relationships that you build along the way. I had some incredibly talented friends that we've met along the way. And that in turn now inspired me to be a better person for everything that I deliver.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to finish it up with a really amazing surprise. I, too, came to Walt Disney World as a kid. Oh my God. Except I got to wear this amazing outfit visiting Mickey's Toontown, or previously Mickey's Starland, FKA Mickey's Birthday Land. And so I just love this picture because it bespeaks the early 90s, the fanny pack, the fluorescent Save the Earth
It has it
t-shirt.
all.
Yeah, so I'm thrilled to share that with all of you today. Please, no photos. And so I grew up in New York, and of course, that's where our family came to Walt Disney World almost every year. And like many distant fans, the only way I could be connected to Disney with my first job was to get a job at the Disney store, where I got to wear this amazing lumpy blue sweater. And I don't know if you can see in the picture, but I'm holding up the medal from having won the Disney Store cast member regional trivia competition. So if anyone wants to go head to head after this, I'm game.
Amazing.
I, of course, had the opportunity then to live in Orlando and work at Walt Disney World just down the road. Spent a great number of years there, as I mentioned, and also work at Carnival Corporation. And this is an awesome photo from a few years back when up in Alaska, just outside Denali National Park, we opened a brand new retail dining and entertainment district. So I just love those giant blue scissors. Okay, anyway, so now we're going to dive into the meat. While you're all here today, you've gotten to know us, brings it all home here to Orlando. We are talking about this fusion of digital and practical experiences in entertainment and throughout the themed entertainment industry. And so whether it's theater or consumer products or events, everyone's trying to create these immersive experiences and blend digital and practical flawlessly. And I think the companies that are doing this the best are the ones that are putting the control in the hands of the consumer or the guest, allowing them to decide, when do I want to engage on a deeper level and when do I not want to? And so when you're using technology for technology's sake, oftentimes it can become, cumbersome, or it actually distracts from the experience. But when done correctly, it really helps to amplify the experience. We heard just previously from Tom and Deanna's presentation so much about this. We're going to jump off on top of their shoulders and take this to the next level and really bring it home. And so we're just going to run down the line here, and each one of our team here is going to share with you, examples of where digital practical fusion has come in the just short few years that it's been around, where we think it's going, what some great examples are, and some stories in that space. So I'm going to start with Scott. You were part of this movement early on, and I think have an interesting tale to tell about where this has come.
Yeah, who here in the audience read or is familiar with Pat the Bunny, the touch and feel book? Hands?
Remember books, those things with
Right?
pages?
Books, yeah.
So Pat the Bunny came out in 1940. It was the very first touch and feel book. And so when the iPad was coming out and people were very excited about the idea of books coming to life on the iPad, I was at Random House Children's Books. And I had the opportunity to work with the estate of Dorothy Kuhnhart, the author, and brought the first touch and feel book to be the first touch and feel book for the iPad. And so we adapted Pat the Bunny for the iPad. Now it was a great experience because the first question I always got was, you're gonna make Pat the Bunny digital? How do you rub the fur? It seems like it's the exact wrong choice. And yet, rather than forcing that together, we found the opportunities within the product, thinking, okay, what can I do with the device that I can't do in the practical book? So if there's peekaboo, rather than it just being the same face, every time you hit peekaboo and it opened, there was a new expression on the child's face to delight and create a humorous moment for young kids. We used the camera on the front of the device to replace that mirror. So that was really, that was then. Yeah. And I think of how far we've come. Now in my role is thinking about fusing digital and practical. One of the big things I think about is how do we invite our fans to participate, because it is no longer an option to have your brand here and the audience there. Fans want ownership over the brands that they love, and they want to be able to participate. So now I produce a YouTube series for our DC Comics channel for kids. And this was a recent video that we ran with our kid hosts. They interviewed the Teen Titans from the recently released Teen Titans Go to the Movies. But the questions were sourced directly from the comments in our feed. And so real kids got to ask their questions, and then seeing that reaction from them on the way back was amazing. And it's really set the stage for us to do much more of that kind of participatory experience. And then one more quick example. I think people forget that we're on our phones all day. That phone is such a powerful force in people's lives. And certainly, like Tom said, like it can be isolating, but it also can be a portal to new experiences. Just recently at San Diego Comic-Con, we partnered with Snapchat to launch the very first digital unboxing, where fans were able to see the first look of the Aquaman action figure, not just have it unbox itself in AR and break out and be animated, but then put themselves into the scene and share that as an experience. And we had great response from that.
That's awesome. Joseph, what about you? I know you've come back from spending a lot of time in Asia.
Yes.
So what's going on in immersive entertainment over there?
So for our brand, Asia is a priority, in particular the Chinese consumer. And we just recently did a very large fragrance event there last spring. And the focus really was to educate the consumer. Now that consumer is extremely savvy with technology, but I wanted to think about how we merge the digital and the practical in a way that we could really tell the story of what Mr. Ford's private blend fragrances are. So basically we created a space where we gave them an introduction. We took them into a room where we gave them the basic 101 about what this line of fragrances is. Then we took them into an immersive and sensorial experience that was that we really triggered the senses and included the fifth sense of scent. And then we unleashed them into what we called the olfactive discovery lounge, where they had an opportunity to interact with a digital touch table and other specific rooms, as well as photo booths to have digital experiences. The entire experience was linked by a personal mobile journey via QR code, which then gave us an opportunity to communicate with the consumer following the event. So this is really, for me, layering a practical experience and journey with digital elements in the practical, and then a digital layer on top of that for a truly personal experience. So it was very successful. We had a lot of social media impressions, which then were converted into sales. And fragrance really isn't presented in this way. I think for us in this room, we understand this language, but in the beauty world, this was a very new concept. So,
amazing, that's really cool. All right, so we're going to shift gears yet again, and you'll see that as a trend in our panel here intentionally. So Christy spent a lot of time in the digital space at Disney parks. So if you want to talk to us about your thoughts about digital and practical coming together.
Yeah, so for me in my career, the one kind of crystal moment of bringing both of these together was doing a map for Walt Disney World. So for years, Disney Parks had a very storytelling, narrative-based map that for years was very successful. It was, whimsical colored lands, kind of led you to draw a distinction between the themed areas, draw attention to major attractions. But the drawback was there was nothing was to scale, so distance was really hard to judge. So then along came Google Maps and altered our lives forever. Suddenly guests wanted to be able to pinch and zoom. They wanted that blue dot to really tell them where they were. No more arguing on the paper maps. If I think we're here, no, I think we're over here. They solve all of the family drama in one map. So we set off to design a geographically accurate map that had all the precision and ease of use that Google offers, but still had something that was distinctly Disney in terms of style and theming. Whenever we got into it, we really wanted, one of our guiding principles was for it to be a heads-up experience. We didn't want everybody walking around the park with their phone in their face and missing all of the wonderful, amazing elements that are going on in the natural environment. So we worked really hard to make sure that it was a quick in and out experience and that we weren't sort of going on and on about it. Throughout the entire project, then we kind of sort of got the digital map, and then we came full circle because then the creative overlay that we had on the digital map then became the printed guide map. So we came full circle so that there was consistency no matter your interaction. So if you were even planning your trip at home, you were looking at a map. Whenever you were in the park, even if you weren't using your mobile device, you were using still the printed guide maps available in all the languages. You still had a consistent so that everybody could sort of follow along, and you weren't having to learn different interactions if one creative map style was different than the other. So it was an amazing experience, but it really does bring you back to what's the intent, what are you trying to solve, and making sure that you sort of hold on to those things throughout the entire journey.
That's awesome. So it's really as your screen, your mobile device as that entry point into the physical experience. And so I'll share with you kind of another example that's another look at this. When I was at Carnival Corporation, had the opportunity to lead an original content strategy where we developed a proprietary franchise television series to help educate potential consumers on what the cruise industry was all about. And so a little bit of a video here. But if you think about the cruise industry, unlike theme parks and entertainment, the way you get intellectual property onto a cruise ship is through traditional licensing agreements, unless you're Disney Cruise Line, of course. But for the rest of the industry, it's all about, well, who's got a product that we can put on board the ship? So we took a step back from that and said, well, let's create our own intellectual property that can then draw consumers into the stories. And so we did that by creating 4 television series, travel series, that were designed to kind of inspire people to this notion of travel. They were not focused solely on the, wow, look at this particular cruise ship, but hey, the idea of travel on water is something that everyone should really aspire to do. And so we created these original properties that air still today on ABC, NBC, and also on demand streaming applications to be able to, get people who may not previously have considered the concept of a cruise vacation interested in that idea. And so they come to watch these television series, and then poof, that same franchise is now available as part of a shore excursion or a food and beverage experience on board the ship, whatever it may be. So it's another great example of how starting with a screen-based entertainment can then lead you into the physical world. And it's been really successful for them.
Craig, it's interesting. It's a little bit like what someone was asking about of like, well, what if I don't have a consumer-facing brand or I can't invest in that? But I think content is such an interesting way to invite people to invest in your brand. And now every company from the plumber to, Walt Disney World is producing their own original content. And so I think if you're in that position where you're maybe not sure whether you have that kind of brand, think about what is it that people come to your destination or your service for? What do they want? And then think about what kind of content you can create that answers that question, that introduces them to you as somebody who can provide that solution, whether it's exploring new worlds like Carnival or anything else that might be the case of your business.
It's true, content is everywhere. All right, so we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about technology as an ingredient. Everyone here in this room knows that you can't just deliver technology for technology's sake in the world of themed entertainment because it will fall flat on its face. Instead, it is just one tool of many. And so, I mentioned earlier that the very best companies who are succeeding in this space are those that allow the consumer to kind of have an experience, and technology fades away into the background and you almost forget that you're actually using a device. You're just so excited about whatever the experience is that you're having. So we're going to take a moment and we're going to talk about how technology is one ingredient of many. And so I'm curious to understand, from each of you, where you think we're going in this particular space. And so we're going to start with Scott.
Well, I racked my brain, Craig, to think about what is the right example for this. And I thought, there's so many great experiences out there in theme parks that leverage technology. But at the end of the day, I was thinking about what Christy had said actually just now, where she said, trying to create a heads-up experience, right? It's so important. We've invested all of this money into building these worlds. The last thing we want is people down in their phones. So to that end, the best experience I can think of is Heads Up, which happens to come from Ellen Digital Ventures, which is part of Warner Brothers. Are folks familiar in the room with Heads Up, the app? Is that, to play its charades? The device goes up on your head with the words, and then your family gives you clues. I see it in every theme park, in every queue. I see it in restaurants. I see it everywhere. And it's been around since 2013, but it is just that simple notion. This is about using technology to create interactions with families, not as a substitution for interaction.
Yep.
So I still think it stands the test.
I agree. Christy, what about you?
So mine is, similar to what Craig said. When you start with a benefit, what benefit you're trying to provide to the guest, And you see the ways that technology can help you deliver that. It's never, what can technology do for me? What's cool that we can start with? Whenever we did my Disney experience for Walt Disney World, we really started with what do the guests need? They need something to support and control their vacation in the moment, or if they're planning, but it started with what does the guest need, and not, we eventually did the magic band that came along with it, and it wasn't, here's a wearable, what can we do with a wearable? It was, the guest was carrying around the key to the world card, their theme park tickets, maybe they were an annual pass holder, so they were using their annual pass for discounts as well. And how could you, consolidate all of those things into one so it frees them up from having to carry around? We did research, and one gentleman, was kind of listening along. He stood up and he pulled out all of, because he was carrying everyone's tickets and everyone's key to the world cards, and he sort of lays them on the table. He's like, "You mean that I can free my pockets up and I don't have to carry around all of this stuff?" And it was sort of, illuminating that, immediately there was a benefit there above and beyond everything else. So even from the transition to FastPass Plus, again, just thinking about what's the benefit to the guests, and not really starting from a place of technology, and really trying to put that in your intention whenever you go through it. Disneyland's even gone sort of a step further. Their guest mix is very different, right? While Disney World's, it's typically a week vacation, everybody comes, it's a destination. For Disneyland, it's, single day, lots of annual pass holders who are very familiar, so, wearable didn't make sense for their guest mix at all. So they sort of consolidated everything into their mobile app, so it allows for the greatest flexibility. A lot of their annual pass holders will just come in for the afternoon and then leave. Having to keep up with something else for them just didn't make sense. And I think it's amazing whenever you can kind of draw the distinction, and even, a brand that's very similar, like consistency across of it, but, really making sure that you're doing what's in service of your guests first, and then figuring out how technology can help you in that.
I love it. Joseph.
So being in service to your guests, we thought about, for the Tom Ford Private Blend experience, we thought about the Chinese consumer and how they really use WeChat as their primary tool in daily life, and how we connect with that. So we leveraged QR codes, which is also part of the everyday China consumer engagement, and how we use that. Now what you're seeing here is an experience in one of our olfactive discovery rooms where you approach a product display. Most people would have a QR on their mobile device that they would scan, which would activate immersive projection content and the release of scent. Now, we had this linked to WeChat in a way that you could register for the event. That became your check-in. You would bring it with you. It became kind of your passport. And as you scanned in these different opportunities, you would then collect almost badges that you had visited the Noir de Noir room or the Olfactive Discovery Lounge. And this is a view of the digital platform that we used. So you were able to collect your entire experience and receive additional information. We were then able to receive information about your preferences. And then after the fact, you received a call to action, a prompt to purchase, and more information about your experience with Tom Ford. So it was really a way that we were able to integrate practical technology elements into a digital experience that linked to the everyday life of the Chinese consumer.
That's awesome. All great examples, again, of how technology is not being developed for the sake of technology, but for service to the overall experience. So our next topic is about storytelling on a global stage. Of course, there's themed entertainment taking place all around the world, every single hour of the day, and the companies that are taking the opportunities to really shift their brands across borders are really seeing a lot of wonderful things happen. So what we're gonna do is I wanna share with you actually a little bit of a story about a company that we've been working with recently in Vietnam. And so Vin Pearl is a collection of theme parks and resort destinations that are dotted up and down the Vietnam coast. And so they were originally built, or started to be built in the mid-2000s as a vacation destination for the Vietnamese. Really spectacular. They spared no expense. But over the course of the last 15 years or so, the market has grown. As we heard previously, the Chinese are traveling a lot more. It's become a vacation destination for Korea and all of Southeast Asia, as well as Eastern Europe, Russia, Australia, New Zealand. And so a destination that was originally built and intended for the Vietnamese is now serving a myriad of cultures. And unlike other geographic destinations that may have, a core set of languages that they service, if you think about Europe is serving a lot of the Romance languages, here in Vietnam, the majority of their visitors are not speaking the core language. And so we've been working with the team at VinPearl on how to develop tools and applications that can really assist not just the guests who are visiting, but also the employees who work there, because of course they have to now employ, a wide variety of employees that speak all the different languages of the guests that are coming to visit. And it's very easy to become, overwhelmed with having to interact with guests on a variety of platforms. And so working with the team to create not just mobile development apps, but also how do we make all the transactional functions like ticketing and access control and hotel check-in seamless across a variety of languages. In addition to that, all the fun stuff that goes on inside the park, all the attractions and the entertainment have recently been rethought and redesigned to almost remove the language element, the spoken language, and focus on those more universal languages, music, visuals, sound, color, to help communicate a story that's still distinctly Vietnamese, but do it in a way that is applicable to the guests who are visiting regardless of where they're coming from. And it's actually part of VinPearl's future strategy that we've been helping to work with on how do we make this applicable across the destinations that exist today and then the company's plans for future development. So a great example of storytelling on a global stage and how because people are traveling more and going to places that maybe they never had previously traveled to, having to modify strategies accordingly. Joseph, you've had the opportunity. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go to Scott first on this one.
Oh, good, because I was just thinking, as you were saying that, I have the same pain
Tell me this.
During my day because I'm responsible for worldwide marketing for consumer products, which means everything I create, I localize in 12 languages, and I have 30 more territories complaining that they are not part of that top 12. And just think about the scope of that. But as we think, just what you said, there are universal languages. There are languages that everyone speaks. And in marketing especially, this rise of visual marketing and the importance of visuals is really taking over. Obviously, we've already talked a little bit about Instagram and what a impact that's had. But just the notion of being able to tell your story, communicate your brands in the visual without words is really, really important. One example of that we just recently did was we created a experience at the Los Angeles Grammy Museum called Get Animated, The Invasion, that was in support of the classic animation properties they're all familiar with, Bugs Bunny, Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones. And this was very much sort of inspired by the Museum of Ice Cream, but instead of it just being, generic Instagrammable moments, we brought these stories to life in a location that people were not expecting it. So this is not in the theme park, but each one of the experiences was participatory. You didn't look at it as an exhibit, you participated, you got into it. And yes, there was an Instagrammable moment as part of that. So one of the questions earlier was, all our clients only want us to make the Instagrammable moment and they don't care about the experience. And I think that is a trap that you can fall into if you're not careful. But I see the idea of Instagrammable moments not as new. It's everyone's desire to take an artifact from their memorable experience, right? I mean, even going back to, as a kid and taking home that plush Mickey Mouse, that was the artifact. And every time I saw that, it wasn't just Mickey, it was a reminder of that experience. And so I think that's what this delivers on, is not only is it bringing you back to that nostalgic world of classic characters, but it gives you something to take with you and to share and engage your friends and family, which I think is really important.
And by engage, you mean make everybody else jealous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really what it's
I mean, I was there were influencers, and I was definitely not supposed to be there. I was the least cool person in a building of very young, very cool people. But it was great. It was so much fun.
Just piggybacking off of what you said about the Instagrammable moments, this has been a phrase that I've been very allergic to because I like to say that in my day we just called that compelling design. Now obviously everything needs to be shared and that's the point, but I had a kind of an aha from the presentation before us where we turned moments into journeys and it made me want to run onto conference calls and tell everyone around the world that we are no longer interested in Instagrammable moments, but we are interested in Instagrammable journeys.
Oh, TM that, man.
That's my big takeaway, and it's not even 11.
You can all steal
Right,
that. You can all use that.
Oh, that's great. So thinking again about storytelling on this global stage, Joseph, you are all around the world all the time. What's going on in your space and around globally?
So, using the case study of the Tom Ford Private Blend experience, when I pitched this for Beijing to the executive team, they said, we love this. We also want you to do it in Dubai. But in Dubai, it was a different brief in that the consumer is a lot more savvy about fragrance in general. So we had to give them kind of a different level of education. It really became more about the experience. Also, Dubai is such a flashy market that really needs you to make a big impact. Where in Beijing, we could put our experience in a exclusive location. In Dubai, we had to literally stick it under the Burj Khalifa, next to the fountain, with a giant Tom Ford sign in order to just kind of get the attention. Once we had the attention, obviously we were able to deliver this very unique messaging and very unique delivery of the fragrance category, which was exciting for them because also they're used to just a big party. But it was a different way that we had to approach the two strategies. Also, technology, although we tried to make technology a bigger component for Dubai, it wasn't required, and we'll talk more about that later.
That's really interesting, though, of like you've got this beautiful experience, you perfected it, and now you bring it somewhere else, and all of a sudden, it doesn't resonate in the same way. And I think that's another element, as you think about the need to be more flexible and to adapt, for the Get Animated experience. They brought that to Asia, but it wasn't a direct pickup. It was, we had created a toolkit, and then the local teams were able to pull in a lot of that to sort of have that head start, but still customize it for their market. And so as you're designing experiences, I think building that idea of customization into it is really important from the beginning, so you don't end up having to, redesign something on the fly when it comes up against a culture that has different needs.
And one size does not necessarily always fit all.
That's true.
So moving on, we've spent some time talking about storytelling, and of course, our entire panel is focused with a thread of technology, and then of course that creates experience, but this is the SATE conference, and so there's one more ingredient of this particular equation that we have to talk about, and so that of course is architecture. But what's great about this world is that architecture doesn't just mean one thing. It has the ability to mean a variety of things, whether we're taking it literally like a technical architecture that's going to help support a lot of the experiences that are being designed, or is it the architecture of a team or the architecture of a product, and it means something different to every single person. And so we're going to take a moment and talk about, what are some of those meanings of architecture and how do we employ them, and then, how do they fit into the broader equation with storytelling and technology. So Christy, this is definitely, I know, one of your favorite topics, technical architecture.
Goodness.
You've spent so much time.
So much time. So immediately the word architecture, and I think about every single data architecture meeting that I've ever sat through talking about database normalization, and I will tell you it's no fun.
And you're ready to just walk off the stage
Just immediately bail. If anybody ever invites you to that, don't go. But really, for me, architecture is really about the guest journey. We're in this amazing industry where we get to be the ones to help craft how a guest gets from home to amazing destinations. And our whole job is to figure out how do we bring joy in these moments along the way. And being an architect of joy, I cannot think of a better job in the entire world than being able to do that. You can think of it in single elements. Joy can even be, how do we do that? Riding the tram, that double honk on the Disney trams, still is a little surprise and delight. I won't lie. Every time that I still hear it, I feel a little tug of the heart. So sweet. Yes. But it's everything from, planning at home, getting ready for your vacation. There was some really interesting research that was done of in the entire guest journey of a vacation, super excited right before they leave, and then the second highest moment is whenever they get home and they can relive all the memories. So poor Instagram is really getting a bad shot today. But I think that Scott's comment about it's Instagram today, it'll be something else tomorrow, but it's what tangible form is a memory coming home with us. I think a lot of Instagram people, love to catch on to that. But there's so many other ways that memories come home with us. And, if you look at ways that technology can help amplify the memory side of it too, and, all the ways that we can kind of architect those things once you get back home and entice you to come back for more. We've done a great job.
That's good. That's good. Scott, talk to us about architecture in your world.
Well, it's interesting. Warner Brothers is no stranger to architecture. Beautiful, immersive placemaking, like our partnership with Universal Studios on the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. We also just had the great privilege of opening Warner Brothers World Abu Dhabi to rave reviews, and I really feel like this is the most immersive experience. It really does bring those places and those characters to life in a way I've never experienced before. But I'm on the marketing side, I'm on the digital side. I also have a little bit of a different take on architecture. I'm thinking about the architecture of your ecosystem. And the word ecosystem is more and more important in today's world when you think about the ecosystem of My Magic Plus, or you think about the ecosystem of Amazon. This is a diagram that we use at Warner Brothers to talk about our fan ecosystem. And it's important to note that if you look at that first row that's closest to our fan, those are the channels that really are controlled by Warner Brothers. There are websites, there are apps, there are video content and email, and that's important, but it's just the start. Because that next ring, those are the touch points where we have some control, but not all the control. Think about the movie theater, where obviously we control the movie, but we don't own the theater. So that experience of popcorn and everything else before is out of our hands. And then the very last row are things where we really don't have any control at all. But that doesn't make them any less a part of a fan's ecosystem. In fact, fans are going to experience your business, your brand, in these places where you don't even have any reach. You can't change it. And so rather than thinking about traditional experience architecture of saying, okay, first they're going to do this, then they're going to do this, then this, like you might on Disney Cruise Line or another cruise line, I have to think about this person could show up anywhere. They could show up at any one of these touch points, and no two people are going to have the same journey. And so I have to make sure that I'm drawing a thread in a conversation, a connection that I can continue at any touch point. So that's the other big, I think, takeaway here is that we used to think of, the theme park or the theme restaurant or whatever it is as a singular experience. But now we have this opportunity to connect the dots in a way that respects our fans, that tells them that we're listening and that we're able to give them more personalized experiences. When I was at Disney, they used to call CRM creating relationship magic. And I will never forget that because A, it's ridiculous, but B, it's true. I mean, at the heart of it, it really is. When you do it right and you recognize fans, it's the difference between walking in, someone saying, hi, it's good to see you again, and somebody saying, hello, stranger. That's good. Bad is, hi, Tom. And you're like, I'm Craig. And that's the thing that it makes this hard. Obviously, this notion of creating omni-channel experiences is a challenge, and it certainly relies on great technology. But it's in service of making sure you're having one emotional connection with fans and you're continuing that conversation at every touch point that is possible.
It's true, and I love what you said about the fan could show up anywhere, and you have to be ready for them at any point in the game. And I think obviously this goes back to the consumer having control, where we're used to, oh, if we build it, they will come, and we will be happy. They will be happy to be here. Yeah. Well, instead, it's a little bit of the opposite now, and we have to be prepared for servicing guests and consumers and whatever the experience may be on the plane where they want it. I'm going to tell you how much I want to engage. You're not going to tell me. I've got the control, and it's a neat world we're living in. But.
Yeah, and I think it's turned a lot of people upside down. Like, but wait a minute, I'm designed this perfect experience. If you do it that way, it's wrong. Yeah. You're going the wrong way. And I think we have to think now sort of in 3 dimensions and be able to design experiences that work even when we don't get to control the path.
It's almost like you're constantly in this state of user acceptance testing. You think you've got it down, and then you take it for a spin, and all of a sudden you're like, well, no, that's not what we intended it to be. You've got to be prepared to adjust.
Well, I think that's one of the benefits of having data. Technology does come with benefits, and certainly being able to leverage data is important. That plays a big role in this, and the notion that if you think about Netflix is running A/B tests, 10, 20, 30, maybe 100 every day. In fact, everyone in here is probably in some form of A/B test on Netflix. Every single feature they test, even though it's been around and it's such an established brand, because they're reacting to the changes in consumers. They're learning more about them and getting better at surfacing up the content that you want and entertaining you. It's really pretty remarkable.
I love it. So we've shared a few stories with you about projects that we're all proud of and things that have really changed the game in the marketplace. But I want to hear all the dirt now. So let's talk about those times where we had to go back to the drawing board, where things didn't go as planned, and all of a sudden we found ourselves in the situation where, like, yikes, what are we going to do? So Joseph, I know you've got a good story about this.
So back to Dubai. Luckily for the private blend experience, Dubai happened before Beijing. So, there are a couple takeaways from this. 1, know your audience. 2, pick a good partner. Follow your instincts when picking partners. We tried in a very small timeline. I think we produced this thing in 6 weeks, tried to execute it, and it happened, but some of the technology didn't really ever get up on its legs. We really wanted to give them a experience where they were linking to a personal mobile journey. Ultimately, the consumer didn't care about that in Dubai. And so putting so much weight on that didn't end up mattering. So between Dubai and Beijing, we really had to think about what are the things that are important for this experience and what is the takeaway for the consumer. And that really, although that personal mobile journey did not work for Dubai, it became even more important for Beijing because that is how the Chinese consumer works. So really there was a moment where we had to go back to the drawing board and really think about in what ways do we need to trim the fat, what are the things that this consumer needs versus this consumer, and really take it and drive it home for the second and larger version in Beijing.
So know your audience.
Know your audience and pick your partners.
Christy.
So for me, living in the digital world most of the time, whenever you start projects, you have these great vision boards and you come up and you can imagine the end goal and it's amazing and the confetti cannons are going off and it's very clear what success is going to look like. But there are times whenever you don't anticipate that things don't go the way that you want it to. Wi-Fi goes down on press event day. Oh my God. And it's important to know that, not everything operates 100% of the time, but it's better to go in with that assumption up front when you can plan for it. Technology is now becoming so embedded in everything that we do, and planning for the times whenever you need to fail gracefully, that you can still allow for forward momentum to get from point A to point B and whatever that means in your particular world. But if you don't, having to do that, figure out a contingency backup plan when it is press event day and Wi-Fi has gone down, and the AT&T network, which could have been your backup, but it's not today. Like thinking through what do you do in all of these moments, and doing that up front rather than at the end, or poor Stitch, somebody ate his page.
No one ever wants to see that.
Nobody ever wants to see
I
that.
feel like you're experiencing PTSD from.
Oh, so much, so
precedent.
much.
I
There's
wanna
so
know
much
more about
therapy in that whole conversation.
All right, Scott, I'm really looking forward to your story about this.
Okay, so I was thinking a little bit about an opportunity to go back to the drawing board. And like I said, I've worked on the product side and the experience side and marketing side, excuse me. So while I was at Disney Consumer Products, I was leading strategy for their kids' app business. And we were designing an app based on a popular vehicle-based franchise, as you know. And we were having internal debates amongst ourselves because we had come up with this idea that you could use your device to drive the car. This was, a while ago. And we were having all these debates about what the visual should be, and we just put hours and hours of work and debate and talking. And then we brought it to kid testing. And if any of you have ever tested any of your products or experiences with kids, you know that there's no better critic than a 4-year-old because they are going to tell you exactly how it is.
Immediate feedback. Immediate.
That's
yes.
right. No sugarcoating it.
No.
So a little boy was playing with this app, and about a couple minutes in, he set the iPad down and he said immortal words, "This sucks." And you're like, oh, life's work crumbling. Oh no. And it's so crazy. And I just thought, like, what is going on? What was going on is the iPad was too heavy for him. His arms were tired, and he couldn't hold it up. And he set it down on the table, and then the game doesn't do anything. It just is running as if you're not steering at all. And so it was one of those things where we were so caught up with our brilliant idea that we didn't catch this sort of really clear usability problem.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, your users are the ones who decide if it's quality or not. I always have that debate with people when I'm saying like, oh, well, this was high quality or this was low quality. Okay, but what did your fans say about it? Because we're in the business of pleasing those fans, not pleasing ourselves.
Are you sure about that?
Well, a little bit. But I think that, this is just one of those moments in my career where I just went like, ooh. And it's a lesson I think about all the time, which is, let's
This
get it.
sucks.
This sucks. I do say that a lot. But this is about getting it in front of your fans and really having that experience, getting that feedback immediately before you spend hours and hours and hours sort of creating your grand opus.
That is true. So we're going to take a moment now. We're going to talk about what's next, where we're going. There's been so much work done recently in this fusion of digital and physical. So where are we going? Scott, I know that you know that the only way to seize the future is to grasp the present. So what's going on?
No one's getting that inside reference to Alien Encounter. Come on, this is, yes? Okay, everyone's a little asleep. All right. What's next? So at Warner Brothers, we're an entertainment company, and we're thinking always about how we can deliver entertainment across all of the different ways that our fans want to consume it. And so obviously we've made a lot of investment in VR, like it was mentioned earlier. And VR is fantastic and has a place. But as we think about the themed entertainment experiences, I think I lean much more into the possibility and the potential of AR, of augmented reality. Because again, going back to this idea of a heads-up experience, AR is about merging the world that you're in and this digital layer that lays on top. And even seeing some of the mixed reality content that's coming out, you see the potential there. You see how much more amazing the ordinary things in the world can become. So I think that, in the world of theme parks, this will still mean amazing experience design, but you'll have the opportunity to have all this digital layers on top. I think it'll also have that same effect on productivity and on all the ways that we think about every time you look up something on your phone, imagine just being able to see it. And obviously, there's a ways to go, and we're sort of, midway through that S-curve, but I think that's going to be the big tech that we should all be leaning into.
Love it.
I'm gonna second AR. Everyone keeps bringing to me Dior's amazing VR headset. We must do this, and I say no. We're not doing that. I'm not interested in taking people out of an experience. I want to put them in an experience, and I think that AR amplifies that. For me at Tom Ford Beauty, the task is really about taking technology that isn't normally used to tell stories in the beauty industry, and then use those. I'm headed to South Korea on Sunday, where we're talking about foundation, probably the most boring product in the world, and we're using face projection mapping. We're projection mapping onto a live model's face to tell the story of how we approach the architecture of the face and whatnot. So it's really about using technologies that have existed. You know, I thought, well, they project on those mannequin heads in the Haunted Mansion. Why can't we just do that on a model? Obviously, I wasn't the first person to do that. There's vendors out there who do this. But it's the idea of taking that idea and putting it somewhere that it's not been done before.
Let's be clear. Like, AR has been around a long time, and we were doing all sorts of really terrible, gimmicky things with it. The technology that's in Pokemon Go is the same technology we've had for years. It's not particularly advanced, but it was the right mix of that technology, that amazing brand, and that experience that all of a sudden created this, like, it was as if people were saying, oh my God, we've never had anything like this. It could have been built at any time. It literally was not new tech. And I think, you know, we lose sight of that. It's not the tech, it's how you turn it into, how you leverage it to create an experience.
That's great. Any thoughts, Christy?
Yeah, I mean, you know, two brilliant people next to me, so I agree with everything. The other part that I'm most interested in seeing come to light is that, at least on the mobile side, we've been so task focused in our mobile devices of, you know, I've got my email, I've got my camera, you know, I can get in and get out, and everything's very efficient, which is great. But looking for ways of, you know, if we think about this idea of, you know, being architects of joy and those surprise and delight moments that we need more of, I just don't feel like that we're leveraging technology in a way that we could. I mean, Pokemon Go is great. Like, nothing was necessarily cool and innovative about the technology, but it unlocked a world that we had never had in a way that, you know, kind of brought joy to so many people, and just finding more ways to do that. And I think it all comes back to, you know, starting with your guest, starting with whoever your fan is, and, you know, what is it that kind of gets the intention and the emotional connection that you need, and then finding ways through either space design, mobile technology, whatever it is, that elevates the experience and brings it all together.
That's good.
Can I quickly add one more thing, if
no.
I may? Sensory experience, I think, are more important than ever. And I think because we don't have smell-o-vision, people sometimes lose sight of the fact that there are things that we can do olfactively. I'm personally very passionate about including the fifth element of scent into experience. And it's something that I try to do in my work, and I think it's something that we can do as an industry. You know, we've seen it done in theme park entertainment, but I think there's something that we could do in a more robust way that's not just offering pleasing scents, but that's offering a scent exploration that complements the experience that you're trying to give people. So I really think an olfactive journey is really an untapped resource that we could all kind of take some time to think about.
I love that. And then, you know, I'll finish off this topic and talk about how, you know, for so long, technology gets a bad rap in that people seem to be, you know, focused, they're sitting, they're playing video games, they're watching movies, they're not really being active. But I think where we've seen in the last couple of years where technology is kind of supporting this movement to get moving, literally, whether it's, you know, wearable devices or applications that are helping inspire you to take more steps throughout the day, I think we're going to continue to see a lot more development on that, an area that I'm very passionate about, in helping people to kind of get out of their seats and, again, let the technology fade into the background so that it's not technology. Instead, I'm being driven to want to move and be active and have a great life. And the technology's helping me do that without me even having to think about it. That's so important. So we're drawing near the end of our time today. And so we thought we would take the opportunity to open it up to all of you. Obviously, we've talked about a very wide variety of different items here today, but no topic is off the table. So please, I think the microphones are around the room. If anyone has a question for any of our panelists on stage, we'll get started with whoever has the microphone first.
Hi, guys.
Oh, hi.
Is this on?
Oh, there you are. Hi there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Okay, so I'm going to shine the spotlight specifically on Christy, but hopefully the rest of you can weigh on this as well. So wearable technology, whether it's a Magic Band or an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or whatever whatever the device may be, they've been around for a while, but I'm wondering if you believe that the Magic Band sort of pioneered what's engaged with in theme parks now? Because like Accesso's Qbot's been around for a much longer time before that, but I'm wondering if you think that's kind of the turning point when wearable technology became relevant and sort of acceptable in theme parks, and why you think maybe the Magic Band was that turning point.
Well, I think it was certainly the first time that we had seen anything done to that scale. Before that, I think there had been, the Apple Watch was just coming out when we were in development for that. I think it's once you see things done at scale and you sort of start to see the benefits that it provides, it sort of opens it up to be probably more acceptable than it was before. But if it had come out and there were no benefits to the guests, if it had come out and, it may not have been, quite as successful. But I think that, it's just, again, back to the intent that you're trying to drive through. If you think about, the intent with a Magic Band was, as a benefit to the guests, so they didn't have to carry around all of these things. That's exciting, and then that was something that resonated with the guests, and they wanted to use it. So the fact that they had to wear a Magic Band was a great trade-off for them. Freed them up from having to carry around Key to the World cards and all of these other things. So the benefit sort of was a great trade-off for them. And I think if we start to see more of that, Universal has one at Volcano Bay. We see them across the cruise industry now too, and I think it's a great way, but you have to make sure that the benefit is definitely there for the guests.
I think there's also an interesting lesson in Magic Bands because Magic Bands is a closed system, right? Mm-hmm. But where I'm starting to see people sort of inspired by Magic Bands and then sort of leaping to that next level is they're creating open platforms where basically they're saying you can use whatever device you have with you. You can use your Apple Watch, you can use your phone, whatever that is, and it's making it even more seamless. Mm-hmm. And just I think back when I was at guest relations at Magic Kingdom and we were giving out these crazy heavy Palm Pilots to do translation. Do you remember those things?
Yes.
They were so heavy. And now everyone has that in their pocket. So I think with wearables, we're going to get to that point where it has such mass adoption that it doesn't make sense to strap on something new for the experience. You want to be able to tap into those open platforms and let people use the wearables they already have.
Because people have preferences about devices and whether or not it's something that you as a experience provider want to go into the manufacturing business and start creating something that maybe isn't your core. It's leveraging what the consumer already has with them, as we continue to move forward and, everyone has a phone of some sort, or most people have a phone of some sort, it becomes easier.
It's also helped other companies leapfrog and catch up. Disney was so far ahead, but I think we lose sight sometimes in this industry of there's a power in using public APIs, there's a power in using some of these open platforms and services to get where we're going faster.
Right.
Rather than having to think in sort of an old model where everything we had to make ourselves because it was all bespoke and unique.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Okay, where are we heading to next? Over here, yes.
Hey guys, Danny Gomez from First Person Experience.
Hi there.
So one of the words that we use so far is Instagrammable moments. It's a second, you take a picture and everybody forgets about it the second they put down their phone. I come from the camp where we talk about immersive experiences that are transformative. The first time you see the castle, the first time you meet Mickey, or the first time you meet Shamu. Can you guys give examples of some work that you did where people come away and are like blown away and are like forever changed from what you guys created?
All right. Who wants to take this one? I think we all have
different moments for that. I think it's always if your goal is to come up with a wow moment, it sets really high expectations whenever you're trying to deliver something that is a wow moment. And oftentimes I have seen that if the lower the expectation, the easier it is to exceed it, and finding those small ways to deliver those elements. I'm trying to think of an example that I can talk about, and I'm struggling to find one that I can openly talk about.
I think I've got one. I think that idea of being transformed by experiences is really powerful, and ultimately it sort of reinforces something that we've been saying a lot about, which is that experience is about emotional connection. It's not the stuff, it's the way it makes you feel. And at Warner Brothers, that notion extends not just in our theme park work, but also across all of consumer products, because we recognize that the touch point that most people have with these brands, the most prolific touch point, is stuff. It's this plush, it's the action figure, it's the t-shirt. That stuff in and of itself is nothing, but it's the emotional connection you have and the way that it makes you feel. We are just about to release, or maybe just have released, a really amazing product with a partner called Cano. You may be familiar with them. They make that sort of build your own computer kit for kids. But they have released a magic wand that you build aligned with Harry Potter. So kids actually build the wand themselves, and then you code with the wand. So you actually, through the application, can create your own spells using code blocks that are simplified. And then, like magic, this wand controls all the things that happen on the screen, and it's an open platform. You can create so many different things. And being in the boring, meeting room when we displayed this, people were amazed, delighted, giggling. I've never seen like an old executive giggle. Like it was transformative, and I feel like that's the kind of magic that technology can bring, but it's really at the heart about what emotion you're evoking.
Yeah, years ago at Disney, we had a product, I don't know if you remember this, Pal Mickey. What is nothing really new. The technology certainly wasn't that innovative, but the whole idea was that, you bought kids Mickey and that you could carry Mickey around the park, and it sort of became, the child became in control, because the child could now tell the parents, oh, well, Mickey says, and, tell you different, facts or whatever around the park. And to see the dynamic shift, and where normally it's the parent walking with the child and be like, oh, look over here, and let's do this. And, the transformational switch of whenever you saw that the child felt so empowered, like, I get to be the leader, I get to be, and, again, just that emotional change that kind of came from it. The technology was certainly, not the thing, but just watching that relationship dynamic change, and the powerful memories then that all the children came away from that situation, and they could go back and be like, well, whenever we went to Magic Kingdom, I got to tell mommy and daddy where to go, and it was amazing.
And just to defend Instagram, because I feel like
we love Instagram.
I talk about that artifact, but part of emotional connection, part of what makes something transformative is who you share it with and how you share it, and remembering it together. And I think that is what is so powerful about Instagram. When I was going through those photos to find that old photo of me on the bee, I realized nobody has seen that photo. That photo has been in a box.
Well, now everyone has seen it.
That's right. Yeah. This is going to be on my tombstone. But I think that's important, that you're able to extend the people that you're sharing an experience with to even the people who can't be there in person.
That's great. I love that. All right, who is next?
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Stage left.
Hey there.
Hi. So obviously we're in a room of people who value the newest and most exciting technologies. How do you guys handle it when guests are not so into it? Whether it be, I don't want to plan what ride I'm on 3 months before I go to the park,
Amen.
Or I don't want to strap a helmet on a roller coaster, or just I value my privacy so much that I don't necessarily want the park to know every move and thought I make. How do you guys balance that desire to push technology but still allow the old ways to be how you experience a park?
I think there's a few angles to this question. I'll start with one. There has to be benefit to the consumer, to the guest. And Christy talked about this. It can't be technology for technology's sake, and it can't be something that you're putting out there because, again, you think this is how the experience should be consumed by the guest or by the consumer. It's got to give them something and make them want it. Because there are people who will say, no, I'm not going to buy that, or I'm not going to take part in this because I have to use my phone, or I need a device or something. I just want to slip into the background. But if there is a hook, a reason why it makes it the overall experience better, people start to see what's going on around them, and they're like, well, hey, how come they're getting to do this? Or, those kids are having so much more fun. Oh, maybe we should open our mind or open our, or reduce our concerns about the complexity and jump on this bandwagon. So again, it's got to be something that's consumer focused.
Yeah, I would also say that there's a lot to, portfolio planning too, even in terms of space and experience. There's always those who are bleeding edge technology, and if it's a compelling, it's a compelling design, not just an Instagrammable moment, that there's something to that. But also on the opposite side, if you don't want to plan, if you don't want to wear a device, if you want to sort of disconnect and have an experience, being able to plan for that too is part of your portfolio. It's knowing who your guest is and how to make them happy, regardless of what it is that they're looking for.
Well, and we talked about technology being one ingredient of the recipe. So I like to think about it as like a pizza, for example. There's many elements that go onto a pizza. Technology can be one of them. But if I don't like pepperoni or if I don't like crust, it still has to be the most delicious crust and the most delicious pepperoni. But in isolation, but together, it also has to make a full experience. So if I don't like this piece, I don't like that piece, it doesn't mean that what's left over suffers or is bad. It means that it is still strong on its own, but together they make the best possible experience.
It comes back to control and who has the control. And the answer has been written for us. It's the guest, it's not us. Mm-hmm. And so I want to take your question and separate at least just two segments of it, because one piece is, I built this great technology and nobody's smart enough to use it. These dumb guests, why can't they do it right? And anytime you find yourself saying that, I encourage you to find a 4-year-old and to put it in front of real people, because the test of whether your UI is effective, the test of whether your quality of your experience is strong, is that people can use it. And if you have to take a course in order to use the technology, then you need to simplify your design. You need to think more about human-centered design. The other side of that, though, is there is an opportunity for all of us to push our audience, to invite them to think about things they hadn't thought of. The example that I give a lot that is a double-edged sword, but Apple is very big on showing us the thing we never knew we wanted but suddenly have to have. And they do that in subtle ways and in big ways, but removing the headphone jack of the iPhone.
It's a touchy subject.
It's a touchy subject, right? Because I remember being like, what? Why would you do that? But they're pushing their audience to see this future where Bluetooth is running and you don't need wires. And a year from now, the thought of it being wired will be in the past. So there are opportunities for you to say, this is something where I'm explicitly making a choice for my guest and inviting them to experience it. To Christy's point, if you have a fallback, if you've thought about those people who don't want to engage, if you've thought about how it fails gracefully, you'll have a smoother transition.
Awesome.
Hi there, I've got one.
Okay, I think we have about one more question. Yes.
Now I've got one. Okay. So with how quickly technology advances and how long it takes projects to develop, how do we sort of avoid becoming old news or even becoming obsolete?
I can take this one. It is part of my soapbox that I like to stand on every now and then is it shouldn't take us so long to deliver things. There have been projects at Disney that I have been part of that took years to develop. And when, in fact, some of it was ready for quite a while. And why not, instead of thinking that you have to deliver this large project, break it up and deliver value to your guests as quickly as possible. No, get rid of the mammoth projects and deliver value as quickly as you can. And find a way to do that. You don't need all the pieces to be done in order to deliver value as quickly as you can, because the world's not going to wait. I mean, you will be obsolete because the guests are not waiting. They'll go find it somewhere else because someone else will have figured out how to deliver it as quickly as possible. So get rid of the large projects.
The shift from waterfall methodology to agile, started in software, but has really come to every discipline. And this notion is you're going to work in a sprint that you're going to create something that's usable. Not some piece of something, but something that is literally code that's usable or an experience that you can use with guests. You're going to get their data. You're going to get their feedback immediately. And then you're going to pivot based on that. The benefit of that is, yes, you get things to the market sooner, but also you don't end up building a vision and find out that guests have changed by the time you deliver. And I think that's true not just of like big theme park projects, but literally anything you're doing at work. If I would highly encourage anyone who's not familiar to take a deep dive into agile methodologies, because there's so many great lessons to learn from that. And think about those startups that are winning this. It's about speed.
Yep.
It's about failing fast, pivoting, and then continuing to innovate.
For me, it comes down to finished versus perfect. We always want it to be perfect. We always want it to be the best it can be. But sometimes it just needs to be finished. You need to get it there, and then you can continue to evolve it. But you can move on to the next thing. If you're waiting and waiting and waiting for it to be perfect, you may never get it there. Or by the time you get it there, it may be irrelevant.
Or you have delivered something that was amazing, but the device was too heavy and this sucks.
Yeah, so finished.
Because as they say, the future waits for no one, not even you. Okay, so now we have officially gone over our time, so I want to say a huge thank you to our panelists for joining us here today. Big thank you to Bettina, JP, Themed Entertainment Association. Okay, by my watch, it is 11:18, and I'm told that I am going to release you all into the wild of SeaWorld, but please be back promptly at 11:35. Thank you so much, everyone.